Coming up next on Rap About It with Mal Adams, special guest, Takuan Amaru. Amaru is an author, teacher, and mental health specialist. A former columnist of the Philadelphia Examiner magazine, he has written over 100 articles on various topics such as popular culture, music, ancient spirituality, and philosophy. Tak borrows from diverse life experiences as a soldier, social worker, athlete, and musical artist to connect with his readers. The son of a Black American father and a Japanese mother, he makes his home in Nagoya, Japan. Host, Mal Adams, and his team of regular panelists, will interview Takuan Amaru about his latest book entitled, 21st Century Japan Decoded, the only manual on mental health for blacks in Japan. All this and more, coming up on Japan Journal, the internet's #1, weekly, English language, online cybercast from Japan. Featuring another episode of Rap About It with Mal Adams. Streaming live on GNN, the global news network. Check us out. You'll be glad you did. Thank you.
Japan Journal with Mal Adams. The internet's #1, weekly, English language, online cybercast from Japan. This episode features our regular series, Rap About It. And now your host, Mal Adams.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of Japan Journal, the internet's #1, weekly, English language, online cybercast from Japan. And tonight is a very special program for us, ladies and gentlemen. I have a special guest here, Takuan Amaru. Takuan is an author, a teacher, a mental health specialist, and a former columnist of the Examiner in Philadelphia magazine. And he's written over 100 articles on various topics such as popular culture, music, ancient spirituality, and philosophy. Tak borrows from his diverse life experiences as a soldier, a social worker, an athlete, as well as a musician, an artist who connects with his readers in that way. He makes his home now in Nagoya, Japan. Brother Tak, raise your hand. Good to be with you, man. All right, my brother, I'm going to love this. We've got some OGs here to greet you and flip it with you, man. So we've known each other, what, maybe 12 years or so more?
Well, no, when I lived in Hamamatsu almost 2 decades ago now.
It's been that long, man?
It was 90, yeah. That was for 3 years I lived back then. And when I met Mal, I was doing Afro-Asiatic. I was an MC in a group. And we made a little bit of noise, had some fun doing it.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Shout out to James.
I met you, Brother James. Yeah, I met Brother James, was your colleague and compadre. I met you in Tila, one of our Toe-Town artist musicians who is now in Las Vegas. So I'll share this with him after we record it. He'll be glad to see you, man.
All right.
But yeah, just let me just say that when I met you then, I peeped you as an intellect and a very serious brother. I want you to remember that time and tell me where in the trilogy you were at that point in time. Can you share that with us later?
Sure.
Okay, great. I mentioned the trilogy, ladies and gentlemen, because those are 3 books that Tak has published. They're all on sale on Amazon, but the one we're going to focus on today, beside the trilogy, is his latest rendering, which is the 21st Century Japan Decoded, the only manual on mental health for blacks in Japan, which is why I convened this illustrious crew of supporters. Let me start up at the top right, the brother with the Arabic background there. Let me just say, Ramadan Mubarak, my brother.
Ramadan Kareem, brother.
This is Shakir Suleiman. I know him as Dr. X Solomon. Please introduce yourself, my brother, to our viewers all over the world on GNN, the Global News Network. Dozo.
Well, in the Islamic community, I'm called El Hajj Shakir Suleiman or Abu Hakim, simply because my son is named Hakim, and Abu means, the servant of or the father of, It is Ramadan. This is like the 5th day of Ramadan, so I'm fasting. I'm not going to be doing a great deal of talking about myself. I hope you don't mind. But I am pleased that Takuan and yourself and his trilogy and the Decoded 21st Century Japan. What I've heard of it and what I've read of it, it's a piece of scholarly work. So I'm welcome. I feel very welcome to be here.
All right, thank you very much, brother. And now below Solomon on the gallery screen there is my brother from another mother, a longtime friend of mine, Nikki Sekino. Nikki Dozo Jiku Shokai Stu Kudasai. We're going to do a bilingual show here today because we have a lot of Japanese viewers. It's daytime in Japan in the midst of the sakura and all of that. And I'm looking out the window here. So Dozo Sakura Omedetou gozaimasu. Dozo Jiku Shokai Stu Kudasai. Please introduce yourself, my brother.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Nikki. Nikki is my nickname. It's not my real name. My real name is Shinichi Sekino. And somebody in Texas, a black woman, gave the nickname to me, Shinichi. Nikki. In the second date I met her, she said, "Oh, you have a nickname." I said, "What is it?" "Nikki." That was 1973. So I have been Nikki.
You said a black woman?
Yeah, she was a black woman.
Oh.
And she was at the cafeteria of University of Houston. I was a student.
Okay.
And I had my tray and food and salad and coffee. I went to the cashier, and she was the cash register. She was the cashier. And beautiful woman, and fell in love. And she asked for my name. I said, Shinichi. She couldn't pronounce it. Then we returned to the same cash register on the second day. And she said, "Oh, you have a nickname. What is it?" "Nikki." That was decades ago.
Decades ago.
Yeah, many, many years ago. So I'm more comfortable with my nickname than my real name. I'm a teacher, teaching English as a second language. And I'm teaching children, adults, senior citizens. Up until March, I was a teacher at the vocational school. I am pretty serious teacher. I may scare some of the students. Some students like me. That's me. Oh, I'm a sink or what do you call it? Sink or swim. I'm a sink or swim teacher. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Let me just add that when I first came to Japan with CBS, we immediately became involved with the Black community. That's when Mike and I first met, and we've been partners ever since. But I am the president emeritus of the Japan African American Friendship Association, known as JAFA, which is in hiatus right now, and we're poised right now to make it an NPO. But Nikki, I mentioned that because Nikki subsequently became president of the Japan African American Friendship Association after me. So we've been rolling on this account for many, many years.
Many years.
Last but not least, the brother with the hat on there is my good friend, good brother, Mike Coleman. Brother Jiko Shokai Shite Kudasai. Please introduce yourself. Yeah,
well, man, I'm not really good at promoting myself, man. I'm kind of humble. That's the way I grew up that way. I've been in Japan for, like a long time, man. I've been circumvented the sun 66 times, 66 years, man. So, I've done so much, and I'm still got a lot of things on my mind. So, this is not the Michael Coleman show. This is my man's show. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time on me, man. But, I've been here a while. I was in the military. I was in the Coast Guard. Some people don't want to call that the military, but it is the military.
Yeah, we were going to talk about that.
Yeah, especially in time of war, it becomes the military, right? So, but I've done that, man. I've been in Japan since 1976. Yeah. So, and I've gone through karate school. I've been training karate here for the longest time since I've been here. When I was in the States, man, I've trained in the States, and and I've always loved animals. So right now I'm surrounded by my collection and the things that I'm breeding. I'm breeding geckos, and I breed some exotic mammals and things like that. So I've got all that around me. And my family, my wife is Japanese. I got 2 children, and they're half Japanese. We run our corporation here. We import exotics from America and we sell to the Japanese shops and distributors. And so we're pretty busy all the time. I got 130 ferrets arriving today from Narita. So I'm waiting on that right now. And I got to go to my dojo tonight and I teach a children's class in Shinagawa. And, you know, I mean, I've done acting and modeling and rapping and all kind of stuff, man. And me and Mal, we into a lot of stuff. We're looking at the metaverse right now. We're looking at the Infiniverse and NFTs, and we're trying to get our, you know, we're trying not to get left behind. You know, I mean, we old dudes, man, but we're trying not to get left behind. So we're doing our best, right?
Definitely not trying to. We're leaders, man. We're not left behinders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear that.
Hey, Talk, Mike's being very modest, brother. All that mouthful he just showed you, there's so much more, my brother.
I'm sure.
Pick a topic, and I got a story for it if it relates to that, brother. He was a journalist like me with the Japan Times, and we bounced off each other. He had an article for 10 years talking about black music, and Tokyo Soul was the name of the column, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Mike?
Tokyo Soul, yeah.
Tokyo Soul, brother. And he allowed me to drop my own hype on his column, you know, help me out in my business.
Yeah, back in those days, man, we had Snoop Dogg coming, Dre coming, Coolio, man. We had
Ice Cube.
LL Cool J, man, all the groups, anybody black and famous that came through. I had face pass to all the shows and all the people, man. Herbie Hancock and Jimmy Smith, jazz. It didn't matter, man. If it was soul, I covered it, right? And in the middle of all that, Mal was doing his thing, and I would just interject his column right in the middle while something else big is happening. Boom, because he's big too. Mal,
yeah, right. But we had it like that. What I'm saying to you, Talk, is this is your official invitation to join the clique, my brother, because I know you got a future in Japan ahead of you, and we're gonna help you sling some books tonight. So let me progress. But you know, when he was doing the Japan Times article, you know, he mentioned the stars that he was hanging with and interviewing. I'm up on Capitol Hill in Nagatacho talking to Nakasone Soridaiji and these guys. That's very boring stuff. I'd finish my job and go find him at Juliana somewhere, you know.
man,
Man, can I hang with you? You know, my press pass didn't work where he was going. You know? So anyway, we'll share those stories with you. But I wanted to preface this for our viewers to let them know what this represents. And it's all about you and your works, my brother, and we're proud and pleased about it. Let me just get you to capsulize your experience. As I indicated in my introduction, that you're an author, a teacher, a mental health specialist, former columnist, and you have many articles on culture, music, ancient spirituality, and philosophy. And I mentioned in one of my promotional previews that you're the son of a Black American father and a Japanese mother, which gets you in the position you are here and has helped you formulate your perspective. So let's get right with the trilogy. You got 3 books on Amazon right now for sale. Can you describe them? Book 1, book 2, book 3?
Okay, and thank you very much, first of all, for being here, and gentlemen, and appreciate you all attending. With Gaikokujin, the story, it's a fictional account of true events. It's actually a story about my life, but actually it doesn't really cover too much about Japan. It's really until I'm 21. Now, my family, we migrated to the States from Japan, but because it's a fictional story, I didn't really talk about that, because the story really is about me coming from Japan and coming off the military bases. My father was a retired career Air Force airman, and really it was the contrast between that and then going to America, where it was very, very dichotomous between black and white. And, you know, that was very, very shocking. And I think people who live, whether in Japan or America, where it's already kind of dichotomous, they don't really see that or understand that unless you're the fish that's out of water. You know, whether even if you think it's bad, if you think it's good, but it comes off as normal, but it's not really normal to people when you come from somewhere just totally different, you know.
You was in Dakota base?
No, Tachikawa.
Oh, Tachikawa, okay.
Tachikawa,
Yeah. But yeah, so that story really is book 1 covers from when I was small, and that really is the Japanese identity, the half identity, or really the big one was learning how to be Black. And you coming in and especially coming off on the military base, I didn't know this, but McGuire Air Force Base, where we're in New Jersey, was one of the bases that were designated post Vietnam War for mixed race families. So all of my friends were mixed, and I didn't know this until I did some research later. Like, yeah, everybody was mixed there. It was kind of like New York City, and it wasn't until later. But moving off of the base, going into like a white neighborhood, now that was totally different. Even though I had already encountered Caucasian people or people from Europe of European descent on the base, they were married to somebody that wasn't their race usually, and so it was just totally different.
Let me clarify something about your move. Now, you were born on the base in Japan. Right. Tachikawa. And how old were you before you went, when you went back to the United States with your father? Okay.
Actually, this is a little bit of story too. Everything's strange. My sister and my brother were both born in Japan. When it was time for me to be born, my father, who is American from Alabama, he was like, hold on, he wanted one of his children to be born in the States. So my mother was sent back to the States just to have me, basically. Awesome. And I don't really know how many months it was. And then we came back, but I didn't realize this until I was signed to play baseball when I was a kid, because I was born in Topeka, Kansas. And Topeka, phonetically, they would never say, when you're talking amongst family, you say Topeka, Tachikawa, Okinawa, and I thought Topeka was part of Japan.
Sounds like.
I was like, I was born in Topeka. I was okay. And
hey, brother, I'm from Omaha, right up the street. That's a Native American term, so it's all Omaha.
Yeah, if it would just been Omaha and you didn't know, okay, yeah. Omaha was that part of Tokyo? Right. And but that's part of in book one. That was a big thing too, because the whole contrast, and I got teased hard for being from Japan. You know what I'm saying? Like, call it Jap and all these things. But but we went back to the. But I grew up. I mean, I my first couple of years we were in in Japan, between Tokyo and Okinawa. But the book actually takes off in the States after we went to the Philippines, and actually like one of the families and some of the experiences I talk about happened in the Philippines, but I just put it all together in the States just to avoid the whole that's why it's fictional.
Understood.
Longapo?
I'm sorry?
In Longapo?
No, I was in Manila.
Yeah, Manila. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was in Manila.
So you mentioned the first 2 years. So your mom bore you in America and came back to the base, and you grew up. You spent a couple of years in Japan as a child.
Right.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Okay.
Right.
So you rejoined the family. I got it. All right.
Yeah.
So your dad just wanted you to be born on
right. He was like, oh, yeah. He was like, this is gonna be the last one coming out. He was like, somebody got to be born over on my soil.
So let me. I read about the book. I ordered. I can't get it until the 19th, so I couldn't look at it. But from what I have observed about it, the fictional part, I'm not sure, but the stories are true, as you mentioned. Did you grow up in urban America in New Jersey? I think is what the book says. And was that a predominantly Black community? You mentioned that there were mixed families on the base. Make that connection for me.
Okay.
In terms of being called a Jap, in other words, were white kids calling you Jap or brothers calling you Jap?
It was the brothers would call me Jap.
Okay.
But okay. So you're talking about Guy Kogujin. This is book one. So yeah, coming off the base. Well, we lived a couple different places, so I kind of consolidate all together. But basically, first it starts out being all white. And even the one neighborhood we moved into, I didn't realize that we probably set it off, but it was all white people. And then, but in my mind as a child, 6-8 months is a long time, when you're only 6 to begin with, you know what I mean? So I remember like when the Filipino family moved in, then suddenly everything started to change and the schools changed and it went from white it still was majority white, but you know it is. And black people coming in, especially coming from the inner city, we dominated everything. So it seemed like it was mostly black. You know, when I think back on, I'm like, no, but it was still mostly white people. But you know, when you have black people, white people, everybody just together on an even scale, pretty even, you know, the melanin rich people start to dominate, you know, not even necessarily being aggressive. They just doing the coolest stuff, you know.
That's just the way it is.
It's just how it is, yeah. It's just how it is.
How we roll.
Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, tiptoe through the trilogy. Then the first story but all of them are named "Pursuing the American Dream." You got story one: hip hop, race, and pursuing the American dream. Okay, that's kind of a rags to riches adventure as you described it. That goes up until what? High school?
Yeah, that goes up all the way until I graduate high school, right?
Okay.
Because actually, what happened was the reason I wrote the book is kind of I have an anomaly type of story, but not in any kind of glamorous way. When I went into the Army, the circumstances that went into, I got kicked out of my house, and I was a street kid. I thought, you know, that whole I'm tough. And then going into the Army, you know what I'm saying, when you meet this drill sergeant and he got something for your toughness, you know, he met another guy just like you, just the last cycle, and the clashes. But I came in, I was just so sincere in my effort. Like I did everything wrong, but I became like, I don't want to say I was the best soldier. It was like these circumstances that would just kind of convalesce. And it was basically what I'm saying is, it's a series of a succession of miracles, small miracles that if people who were there would attest to it. And I think that any melanin rich person, if you're sitting here talking to me, if you're listening to me, that means there's a certain set of circumstances that you've overcome that have been set specifically for you. Now, you might not see them as miracles, but you were somewhere and somebody got shot, and you know what I mean? Or things happen in neighborhoods, and the fact that you're here and you have your wit about you, you're not homeless, you're not incarcerated, you have that story. So when I'm writing my story, I'm really, really thinking that people are going to look in and say, yeah, you know, this reminds me of such and such from my neighborhood, and this reminds me of this, you know, because it's just my details, but it's all of our story, you know. And but from the Army, because the Army is such a regimented situation where it's very success, failed, you know, driven. You know, everything's graded, everything's recorded. It's very easy. You can't say you failed or you succeeded when you didn't. Everybody can know that's very clear. Your rank, everything, you know. And so for me, from when I went in, just like what you looking at, you know what I'm saying, like. And, you know, I literally went from in basic training to being a guy. I was so confused. And my man, Mike, you've been in the military.
Yeah.
So, you know, everything is camaraderie, and I didn't get it. And I really thought I was on some kind of mission to be a rebel. And I used to actually, literally, the first week, I didn't help clean up nothing.
Oh, man.
You know, in the morning, they're cleaning up. And I literally used to clean up, make my bed, do everything, and lay on the floor and go to sleep. And I didn't understand why I was getting the cold shoulder by that's just how lost I was, you know. But I went from that, and you know, all the penalty that came with it. We're not going to even go into that, you know, and it taught me. But I went from that, and I shouldn't say me, it was just my vessel. At the end, this is just 2 months. I was the soldier of the cycle, but they have an MVP trophy for basic, and they tallied on the points of everything, all of the tasks that you have to complete. And point wise, I won. But the drill sergeant straight told me, like, we ain't no way we giving this to you. You know, like, and this is without me telling you all the details of how, because it didn't happen overnight. I mean, but it did happen overnight, actually, you think 2 months. But that was a microcosm of exactly what happened to me the whole time I was in the Army. And a lot of it, like, again, when I went back to write it, if you had let me tell you back when I was 18, 19, I'd have been like, hey, because I'm just nice, I'm the man. you know, and then I was like, yo, I really didn't have very much to do with it at all. It was like, it was just circumstance.
Circumstances, yeah.
Yeah, and like, oh, I was Mr. Magoo, but for whatever reason, Spirit found it, I don't know why, to put, because you know, if you're a black kid, you can just walk to the corner store, you know, just getting some eggs and milk for your grandmom and get hemmed up in some nonsense and get shot, put in jail. Like, this is a common story, but I kind of reflect the opposite side of the story, where it was like, no, I was trying to get in trouble. You know, I was like, yo, what we gonna do tomorrow? You know what I'm saying? And you know, a lot of those cats too. And for some reason, you know, it would be like, oh, no, everybody's going except me. And so I had to go back and figure out why did this happen? Because it wasn't because I was clever.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Let me ask you something. In your preface there, it says there was a near-death episode with your father. Is that factual or fictional?
Yeah, that's factual. Yeah.
Without spoiling, can you talk about that, or shall we just read the book?
Well, as a lot of black kids do in the hood, you know, because of the systemic racism that is coming against black men, especially, not to take anything away from what goes on against black women. But my father, you know, he served in Vietnam, Korea, and he thought it was going to give him, when he came back, it was going to give him a certain status, you know,
Right.
I served the country. And when that didn't happen, you know, he kind of lost it, like a lot of people do, and especially coming from Vietnam. And so that really factors into the relationship that I have with my father. And it was a my father was very, very upset, and he was a very, very big, he was strong, he was a very strong man. And so there's like a two-edged sword there, because on one hand, I was totally fearful of him if he got upset, which he was always upset. But on the other side, my father was such a strong man. Like, for example, if any white man said anything that was even close to the N-word, anything that even could come off and it could be documented, if I told my father, for that night, the anger would diffuse away from me or anything, and he would take it out on I've seen him actually, he had one white man packed up and moved. You know, he went to the door and was like, yo, come out the house. Like, you know, I want you, you know, say, what did you say? And I don't keep that same energy, you know, and I've seen him, you know, really, and that, I never thought about that until later. I was like, that factors into a lot of how I am, because
I was getting ready to say, you got some of that in you, don't you?
yeah, because what a lot of black kids, they see their fathers have to cower down to, you know, I never had to see that. And in fact, it was quite the opposite. Right. Just again, due to, we lived in the suburbs. I didn't see my father at work, you know, say, but on the post, when he was older when he had me. So he was already a master sergeant. So when he walked around the post, people were greeting him, Sergeant, you know, good afternoon, this kind of stuff. And you don't think about any of this stuff, you know.
I'm gonna move along. Let's go to book 3. Talk to me about book 3 in terms of your quest for Christ consciousness. I'm pegging it to the book without trying to spoil it.
Okay.
Not too many details, but I want to get through this trilogy, and then we get to your latest book,
okay.
and we're going to have a discussion with Nikki and Solomon and these guys who could shed some light on the aspects of those things that you are sharing. In terms of Tatema, in terms of Hone, in terms of the isolation of Japanese youth, the suicide rate and all that stuff. I want to get to that. But get me through book number 3 now, which is the quest for Christ consciousness. What's that about?
Okay, but let me just segue real quick. So book 1 ends when I'm in high school and I get into a fight. You said it culminates with me getting thrown out of my house and a near-death episode. Okay, I go into the military. I have to face all this. I'm coming in with stitches in my face, all this kind of crazy stuff. So I'm already pinpointed as, oh, he thinks he's a tough guy. And in the end, I was like, yeah, I do.
Right.
All right. So all the challenges, that's where I wanted to write the book. The book actually for me started in book 1. I wanted to write about these miracles of how it occurred. After I finished writing the trilogy, my editor was like, yo, you have to talk about your childhood or no one's going to understand you. I didn't want to write the child because it's kind of embarrassing. You know, and but I did. So just so that you understand, book 2 basically is a lot of just, again, the Mr. Magoo, this happened, and to let you see where I'm going at. But it culminates with me going to a huge depression period, because even though everybody's getting arrested, nothing's happening to me. All I'm doing is getting promoted. And but so I'm getting over, quote unquote, without me giving you details. But it was an emptiness. And in the Army, especially starting as a paratrooper, you deal with understanding, like you might actually die. Like a lot of people, it's a theory, but these combat jumps, they're no joke. And so you question, you think, okay, am I really prepared to die? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So anyway, I went on I was like, there was two brothers, young brothers. They used to witness, go around, talk about Jesus Christ. They were in this non-denominational church. I was attracted to them, had nothing to do with their church, had to do with them. They were just a little older than me. They were always impeccably dressed, even when they were, down with, just dressing down. They always looked good. They could really articulate themselves. And, they were a little older than me, like I said. So I end up linking up with them. And that's where book 2, I meet them in book 2. I'm on doing my thing. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, cuz whatever. I'll talk to you later. I go through a big, serious, self-assessment point, depression. It's real funny too. And that's where book 2 goes into book 3. And when I go into book 3, I'm actually walking into a church and I'm just totally, I'm trying not to cry. And I'm coming because these two brothers, I seen them over the months, really, really doing their thing. I seen these cats in a parking lot of a big club where there was lots of hustlers. And these cats with alligator, they got alligator shoes on and cats with dough. And I saw them holding hands, praying with these cats in a parking lot. I was like, hold up, man.
Where were you at this time? In New Jersey?
This is North Carolina. No, this is when I'm in the Army. This is Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So it's Fayetteville.
I see.
Yeah. And so these guys really earned my trust. I go in, that's where book 3 begins. I go in and I link up with them and they teach me a lot of, and really it's manhood stuff. They taught me to be a man, you know what I mean? But as I go through the church, certain things to occur. I start getting a lot of notoriety because we're going out talking to people. So a lot of people come to the church starts looking like the hood, you know what I'm saying? And the pastor starts coming at me and, a lot of things happen. The tithing, he starts getting on me about tithing and all these kinds of things because the church was made for developing young men into pastors. So I thought I was going to be a pastor at this point.
Wow.
And so a fallout occurs. And really, to me, that's where the Christ consciousness really, really kicks in, because my whole thing was the whole time, I really, really has a sincere effort to want to get to that Christ level. You know what I'm saying? And I think when I look back at the book, everything shows. And that's one of the reasons why things didn't happen to me. It wasn't because I was clever, I was smart, I was lucky. That part is true. But it was more than that, because, it was like, yo, you didn't meet your real confrontation is not going to happen yet. We got something more for you. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what that is. So really just learning what the real meaning of Christ being a consciousness and how I was able to raise myself, or not even be raised, be pulled up into a certain level, a conscious level. And like I said, because I'm in the Army and certain things occur, there's too much evidence that I call the succession of miracles that goes in line with this. So that is the trilogy in a nutshell.
Very interesting. Let me take a minute here, and then Mike, I'm going to ask you a question about. I chant and meditate, but you're a devout Buddhist, and I want you to speak on that. As Tak has a Japanese mother, your children have a Japanese mother, and your entire family are Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. We got the Islamic brother up on the top, and we got Nikki and myself. We are nondescript, non-denomination, but I'm a Nam Myoho Renge Kyo brother, and I'm a Hallelujah brother as well, baptized in the African American church, So let's go there. But first, let me share the screen here so that our viewers can understand and talk me through this. Where can the trilogy be acquired, Tak, as I try to go here? Amazon right now, is that it?
Yeah, both. Yeah, all the books can be purchased on Amazon, whether .com or or internationally.
.com or well, our American listeners, if there are some at this hour, probably of just a few, but in Africa and somewhere around the world and in Germany. But certainly here in Japan, our listeners would be able to go online and find this link right here. So I'm going to screen share that right now. And let's share that. I just want to give them a visual of what the trilogy looked like. They're sold individually, or is it one book?
Oh, of course, Amazon offers you the opportunity to buy it all three at a discount. But yeah, you can buy them, of course, book 1, book 2, and book 3.
So can we see that? Can you see that, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there you go. On the left here where my mouse is, that's the 3. The Gai Kokujin. So Nikki, speak to that for our non-Japanese speakers. The etymology of Sono Nihongo no kotoba Gai Kokujin wa translates most formally as foreigner.
Right.
Is that correct? But
Yes,
then,
that's correct. Right.
But Tak in his book makes the distinction, in particularly in the middle book here, 21st Century Japan Decoded, talks about the nuances of language and these kind of things. Gaijin, the short version, is a little, sometimes offensive. I don't prefer it. And I'll correct somebody, a Japanese, that refers to me as a gaijin. No, that's an outside person. But Kokujin is a nationality, foreigner. But while I'm sharing this screen, talk about the term, the reason you chose that term. There's a wordplay thing. Kokujin also refers to Black America or black, right?
Right. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Tell us what your thinking was with that wordplay. Speak on that for a minute as I share these images. Dozo.
Okay. Well, you can see, in the trilogy Gai Kokujin, I changed the middle character, which is usually country, and I changed it for black. So that, because it's a story about me and people who are like me.
Koko desu. You see my mouse? You're right here.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Nikki, is that, which is that?
That's black. Yeah.
Okay.
That's foreign. The top one is foreign.
Okay. So, Tak, that's interesting, man. Japanese would understand that, but I wanted to explain that to our American viewers. The term Gai Kokujin has a double meaning there, but you've used the Koko aspect of that as black, right?
Right. Yeah. And Japanese people, they talk to me about it, what they feel about it. And we've had some interesting conversations. But in a nutshell, as you could say, my own personal thing of being kind of the outsider, hafu, whatever, always looking inside to something else. But also black people or any disenfranchised caste, basically, if you think about it, that's what the whole thing about it is trying to put you outside, right? That's what marginalizing means. Absolutely. And if you look in black culture, that's why, like when I try to explain to Japanese people, like Michael Jackson has a album Bad, or LL Cool J, I'm bad, or we say, yo, that's a bad boy, you know what I mean, or rude boy. And a lot of times these things start to switch over in some people's mind can mean something more akin to hero. Because if you're on the outside, you've been cast in a negative way, everything starts getting flipped. And when you can see the phonetics in Japanese culture, we've always had a way to deal with what's coming down the pike to keep our minds together. And that's what 21st Century Japan Decoded is about, is all about being able to flip things so that you remain stable no matter what's going on around you.
Yeah, we got a lot of terms like that, man. Sometimes we say something is sick, right? Oh man, that was sick. You know, right? But of course we don't mean sick, that's dope. That's dope. Both of those are kind of negative terms, right? And for us, when we say it, we don't mean it that way.
Right. We own the words, we own them. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did not get to the transition I wanted to about Mike, your faith in Japan. Can you capsulize that for me? Because
I was born Baptist. My father went from street thug into jail in the Tombs in New York to deacon, and my mom was a deaconess, and then they were both in the choir, and then they insisted that I go to Sunday school and church every week, and I ended up being the president of the usher board. And I was baptized in the whole thing, man. But we won't go into all of the reasons why I've decided that I would rather, pursue Buddhism, because it's we all look at the creator we consider that the mystic law, the top entity. You know what I mean? We just don't look at it as a person. we look at it as if it's within ourselves. Right? We're Buddhist, right? We all
But
have,
also, yeah, to speak to that,
yeah, we all have
the nomenclature of that, if I may share, I call it the force, universal force.
universal force.
It's
Yeah,
not personified as it is a Christian. That deals with a
no,
human
yeah,
in the flesh.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? But we're dealing with a concept of force. And
yeah, and we all have the ability to attain Buddhahood. You know,
absolutely.
enlightenment, right? So
Right.
that's what we all want. We all want enlightenment. We all want to be the best person that we can be. You know what I mean? It's common knowledge that killing and lying and stealing is wrong. Everyone will agree to that,
Mhm.
right? So we don't need to be in, it doesn't matter which faith you're in, as long as you adhere to those principles, then you're a good person, and we all can be friends and down, man. So I'm not going to say nothing against Christianity or whatever, man. It's a good debate. I love the debates, man, about the New Testament and how come you can change it and all that. That's great, man. And about the slaves being controlled by the masters, by Christianity and all this stuff. Hey, we can go into all that, but that's not necessary, because the ultimate goal is enlightenment, right? So that's where I'm at, man. My family is all Buddhist. My wife's Buddhist. My kids are Buddhist, man. I've gone to the temple in Fuji behind you. We used to have that temple up at Mount Fuji, and we used to go there.
Yeah.
But even Buddhists split. So the Nichiren.
Well, many denominations, sure. But
Yeah,
your point is well taken. I appreciate. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Talk, bear with me, because I'm gonna make a transition to Islam right now, because we got a brother in the midst of Ramadan right now. But let me make that transition. In my personal case, born and raised a Christian with a grandfather who was a minister in the African American AME, African Methodist Episcopal Church, the first organized religion of slaves and ex-slaves in the United States, right? Okay, so of course, the rituals associated with that, the traditions and the customs we adhered to, we learned. But then historically, what we come to realize, if you into critical race theory, you know that the Christianity taught to the slaves, talking about turn the other cheek. Mike alluded to that kind of stuff. We're not about that. So when I came to Japan, I adopted Buddhism before I came to Japan, my first wife being Buddhist and was Nam-myoho Renge-kyo chanting. So I've been into Buddhism for 50 years more, and to acquire nirvana in the traditional Buddhist concept, right? What what did you describe it as, Michael?
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment. That's that's a good translation. Yeah, fine. So, but I remember in Sunday school, or even as an adult, praying in the AME church was a meditative concept thing to open myself to what the cosmos or the universe had to offer as a non-physical entity, but a spiritual kind of a thing, right? So let me transition to Solomon, Brother Shakir Suleiman, who's in Ramadan right now.
Yeah, brother. Thank you.
Share with us the precepts that adhere to this particular period. It's a 1 month period, right? And it is about self-consciousness, kindness, understanding, spirituality. Talk on that for a minute, if you would.
If you allow me to say, first of all, I'm fasting. Secondly, if I misspeak or say some things that are kind of not, it's because I'm fasting. Yes, the source of the force, Mal. You guys call it force, but basically in Islam we deal with the source of the force. Okay, and yeah, in Ramadan it's 30 days whereby which we fast from sun up to sundown. Of course, over the period of time it accumulates. After the fast, we do a ritual of a set amount of prayers that allow us to continue our efforts for the month of Ramadan. I could go deeper into it if you want to know more about Quran and the Holy Quran and about the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But allow me to say this: I was Buddhist before I became Muslim. You see, my parents, I was put in a Lutheran school, raised like a Baptist, put in a Lutheran school. I was baptized Lutheran, went to Catholic school, both grammar school and high school. My grandmother was a minister. As a matter of fact, her brother put up one of the first African Methodist churches. It's still standing. It's a landmark in Chicago. Spirituality. my journey led me to the Tao, to Buddhism, to the Upanishads. But when I got to Al-Islam, the beauty of Islam was the fact that there's a sunnah that says, a hadith that says, all knowledge, all spiritual knowledge is the property of a Muslim. Well, Muslim basically just means believer. Do you believe in the source of the force and the entity of the source and the force and everything in the universe that's been established by the source of the force? You know, nothing spooky, okay? The Nation of Islam made sure I understood that. The two things that are in Islam and Buddhism that click was in the Nation of Islam. So before I became Orthodox Muslim, it was all about the nation for me. To see unification amongst melanated people who put together businesses, who put together real estate, who put together farms, you know, not a white face in sight, but everybody working together, along with the friction and the diversification and problems. And so that's how I became Muslim, basically. My dad had a cat take me to see Savior's Day. My dad was a policeman. This cat was the head of the Afro-American Patrolmen's League. Dad was working that day. He said, listen, go with Mr. Clark, brother Clark. I went the first time I saw our people organized.
Excuse me, hold your point right there. This is a logistical thing. Nikki, you have to excuse yourself.
Yeah, I had to go.
Okay, give me one comment, please, my brother. I have a question for you. Don't be late. Don't make yourself late. But are Japanese religious, given Shinto, the indigenous religion, which is not inherited from India by way of China and Korea to Japan? And the Nichiren Shoshu, the Buddhist thing, we chant because that started back with the Buddha, who's from Nepal, right? Or India, I'm not sure. Historically indicated as a black man. Are Japanese religious in that respect, in your opinion?
No, I don't think so. Mostly they are atheists. Yeah.
But you know, the Shinto, I love some of the precepts of Shintoism because it deals strictly with nature. As I look at Fujisan in the back,
I know.
and all, that's a sacred mountain back there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So nature, the wind, the sea, the weather, all of these kind of things. We'll talk on that more when you get back, my brother. I'm going to invite all of these brothers back, and we can kick it again on this level here.
Okay.
Talk, how we doing? Okay, so you feel free to excuse yourself. I know you got to go, and I'll share this with you. Talk to you delight. Everybody, thank Nikki for.
So I had to go now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, see you. Nice to meet you.
Nikki.
Meet you guys. See you again.
Okay.
See you soon.
Okay, see you soon. Thank you. All right.
Leave your money at the gates on your way.
I will.
I'm like Jay-Z. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in money.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you, man. We'll have you back.
Okay.
Bitcoin, man. Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Bitcoin, baby,
Bitcoin.
This one. yeah. Okay.
All righty.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
participation. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, we'll talk.
Bye, y'all. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. Peace.
Okay.
So, talk. Bring us home here, brother. We're going to go into the last book here, which is 21st Century Japan Decoded, the only manual on mental health for blacks in Japan. Explain the title. In what sense is it a manual for blacks in Japan? Please.
Okay. Well, nowadays we know there are a lot more black people who are coming to Japan than ever before, and there's so many more different opportunities. Now, of course, there are a lot of people who are just coming for 1 year or 2 year stints, and I didn't really write the book for those people, but it's more for people who are coming who want to settle down roots and really, really want to be here beyond 5 years.
Right.
And so we all know that there's a lot of pressure in Japanese culture. It's very famous for example, the suicide rate, or a lot of people also know about like karoshi, right? The was that working work themselves to death, employees
Yeah,
work themselves to
work till
death,
you drop. Yeah, that basically.
or hikikomori.
That peer pressure thing, man, that's a peer pressure thing for sure.
The common point is that word pressure. You
Duh,
know what I'm saying? Hikikomori, like these people that barricade themselves in their parents' homes.
Self-isolation,
Right,
self-isolation.
right.
Yeah, that's
Because
mental sickness. That's a pressure, psychological.
right,
Pressure.
right. See, even you see again, pressure, psychological illness, all these things, that's what they all have in common. So, but when Black people coming here, or anybody who comes here, to think that you're not going to be affected by whatever this pressure is, it's not logical. But if you talk to most Black people in the publicly, they'll be like, oh no, Japan is so great, you know, and everything that they say about it being great is true. You know what I'm saying? And but when you get them after a few drinks, you know, at a club somewhere, and they're like, yo, man, I'm tired of this teacher doing this, and you know, and
It comes out, yeah.
Yeah, it really comes out. And so, but a lot of these people, because they'll end up leaving in like a kind of a revolving door, it doesn't really, yeah, you can roll back out, go back to your home country, go to another country, and just put this behind you. But for the people who live here, and all of you have more experience than me at this, and you have children here, especially with the children, you know, because the way that the especially the father is perceived, let's just say you have a son, you know, the respect that the father has, as I was talking about my father earlier, you know what I'm saying, or lack thereof, is going to have a large effect on the child. And when I talk to a lot of brothers here, they have no conception of this. They're like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go to these meetings. You know, I'm like, okay, you know, I mean, you can do whatever you want, you know what I'm saying, but it's going to have, you understand there's going to be an effect. And I noticed a lot of the people, they're not even prepared to have this conversation. You know what I'm saying? And so so the book really is an accumulation of about 10, maybe even 15 years of emails that I've gotten, because, you know, me being Black and Japanese, and I was a writer, especially when I was at the Examiner, I had a much larger fan base, and then people would just hit me with questions, and I would be answering their questions, you know, and a lot of those people hit me back with feedback, you know, and told me, yeah, that worked, you know, so this is, and some of it didn't work, and I had to, kind of, adjust it a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, so this is really the culmination of all those people asking me questions and me answering the most popular questions, and just kind of put together in a coherent kind of story form.
Thank you very much for that answer. Let me just, for the brothers that remain here, we're not going to be too much longer, but I know Mike's got to go. But what we have in common, it's interesting. Solomon has a Black son, as does Mike, as do I. But we don't have Japanese blood. You're bringing something to the table, the perspective that is interesting and valid. I'm not saying that we as Black fathers here in Japan raising children of mixed race and culture are not astute enough to make the observation for ourselves based on experience, but there must be something that you bring to the party as a guy with a Japanese mother and a Black man in Japan that is worthy. And I want, if you can isolate that for us. And then first of all, Solomon, I think your son is younger than most of us.
Yeah. I have two sons.
You got two sons, that's right. But
My youngest son.
let me just make the observation that they're beautiful young men, they're intelligent, and they got a proud Black father. We've had to do this on our own. And same with Mike, and same with my own son, man. My son keeps telling me, Pop, stop putting me on Facebook, man. Every time and I know it's the same thing. But we recognize the importance of giving them their Black heritage, their Black culture, their Black orientation, but not interfering with them accessing their Japanese side. Can you speak to that? As Black fathers, can you school us on what you may have learned that could speak to that? I'll let Mike talk later too, but.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to Talk right now, you know.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking to him too. Okay.
Sorry, no, sorry.
Well, I think this, from my perspective, being that, you know, my mother's Japanese and having lived here first, there's certain things that I see that are just, I don't even really see it, but it's just intrinsic to my nature. And for example, when I talk to a lot of brothers, you know, brothers will say like, this XYZ is happening and I ain't having it. And I'm like, I'm with you and you shouldn't have it. But if you walk in there tomorrow and say, I ain't having it, it ain't going to go your way. It ain't going to go, no matter how correct what you're saying is, no matter how well you can prove it. Because that's what they all, you know, I can prove it. I have the contract. Okay, I got that. But you're failing to understand that they have a code and there's certain things and the whole disturbing of the Wa. Anybody who disturbs the Wa, even the highest person, the harmony, better have a really good reason for it. And if you disturb the Wa, the first thing you have to do, even Japanese people, is you have to explain to everybody why I disturb the Wa. And it has better be a big transgression because somebody's going to get in trouble for that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing I have the most difficulty trying to explain to brothers a lot of times when they're, you know, because they're coming, you know, in just America where the white supremacy is coming at you. You just have to stand up and say something. And that's the biggest thing. And you're kind of, and that's true. It's true here too. But standing up is a different technique involved.
It's different times. Mike, speak on that, brother.
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree on that, man. I mean, we learned quickly that, you know, just because you think it should be some way, like they say, man, when you don't like something over here, they tell you, you know, well, you go back home then. You know what I mean? This is Japan, man. I mean, I'm dealing with the government agencies, man. I'm importing exotic animals, CITES permits and all these things. And certain things just have to go a certain way. And it doesn't matter if America will accept this document this way. Japan says, no, we're not going to take it that way. So you better go back and get it redone or you're not bringing that stuff in. You know what I mean?
The law changes.
Yeah, so I've learned to accept that, man. My son is at Narita Airport right now clearing customs. He's learned to do that, right? And we learned from, you know, in the beginning, man, I let him do what he wanted to do and, you know, pursue his musical interests and pursue it, you know, look into business, whatever he wanted to do. But he learned right away, man, that it's not easy for a half black, half Japanese guy over here. Girls sometimes have it a little easier because they're pretty and, you know, they get accepted, you know, like when we can't, right? But for him, you know, he has to do a little better than everybody else in order to get his way, right? But then he realized later after trying that my father has a company. Right. We already living in a lifestyle that is kind of like beyond what a lot of people are doing already. So why even reinvent the wheel, man? Let's just work together. We got each other. You know what I mean? So no matter what we got family, right? Family is big in Japan, right? So we got family, we support each other, man. So like my whole family is in the company, man. You know what I mean? And we're doing better.
Let me jump in on that. That's beautiful what you just said. And that's what I don't say this in the book, but I allude to it. Well, you have a lot of black people who are in Japan, right? And the black people are unique in such that everybody pretty much has a college degree just to come over here, just to be eligible for a visa. And everybody pretty much comes from a middle-class background. So it's not like people who are really, really used to poverty. You know what I'm saying? And you would think that they would link up and just see these common points. And I mean, you ain't got to mess with me personally, but you people in your area or whatever, or just all this social media. But instead what they do is everybody comes and like, oh, I'm free. They think they have this illusion of being free and they want to do their own thing. And that's cool. And do that for a minute. But like your son came to the point of, hey, maybe I need to go back. Why? Because Japanese people are all about the group.
Yeah,
it's all around you. But these black people still can't say, I'm like, yo, that's all that's happening around you. And you still missing it because you want to just focus on this one thing. And I'm like, yo, you missing the point, B.
It's driven by self-preservation. Well, the preservation is in the group.
And there's nothing outside the group.
So without getting specific about it, my son sent him to the States, got his English up to college level, and he associated with his African-American cousins and aunties and uncles. He got it. And my brother on Venice Beach, you know.
Hey, that's because they will accept him. See.
Well, wait, before you go there, that's another part. But it happens not to be an issue. But well, of course, they loved it. But here's what I'm saying: by me putting him in that school, that's a school, particularly with my brother Venice Beach, you know, really schooled him on what you went through on the East Coast coming up as young, but that kind of aspect of it too. And at the end of the day, when he matriculated out, Pop, I think I want to come back to Turkey. I said, I figured you would, son.
That's
Come
right.
on. No, because it's his first language. It's part of his culture, his upbringing here. Now,
Hey, man, it's better.
now
It's just better.
my question to you, Talk, is did you have to acquire that part of it? Your mom being black, Japanese, but was she Japanese in America in a black sense, or did she maintain that Japanese thing with you to where you strived for that? You wanted to acquire that uh, recognition of that side of your personality and character.
Okay, good question.
You know the question. You understand where I'm going,
Yeah,
right?
to embracing your Japanese.
Yeah, we didn't have the problem. Solomon's son is raised here, man, a beautiful kid. But my perspective, 50 years in Japan, he's a beautiful international young black man. You know what I'm saying? That's all I can relate to, right? Mike's the same kids, man. So, you know, if I see Mike's kids, I'm like, don't say nothing. Because they Japanese, but they black and they're beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So, we're not talking about, you can't compare apples and oranges. You know what I'm saying? How about you personally? That's the beauty of you, as I see you as a black brother, grew up in that thing, and you so graciously shared your experiences. Let's wrap it up with that response, if you will.
Okay, well, again, you know, my situation growing up, it was different because, yeah, I grew up in the States. My formative years were really in the States. When I relate to kids who have the opposite, it's very interesting for me. But they bring out the things that I remember about Japan as a kid. Okay. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to say one other thing that I really got from that is you guys were talking about religion before. And a guy asked me one time growing up, he said, hey, when you conceive God, like, what do you conceptualize in your mind? And he said, because, and this at the time, he was really going through a lot of things. He was posting up the black image of Jesus, the Christ figure. And I didn't think nothing of it, you know what I'm saying? But he asked me, he was like, yo, I know I've done all this, you know, Dr. John Henry Clark and done the research. And I know Jesus wasn't white, but I grew up in church. So he wanted to know me, you know, my mother being Buddhist, you know, me, my background. And so I never thought about it. We were going on a trip going to Brazil at this time. So I sat back and thought about it. And I write this in the book, and I was like, and an image of of Buddha came up in my mind. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Well, actually, it was my parents adopted a son, and so I don't really see him as my older brother. That's another story. But he's like 12 years older than me, so he grew up separate from me. But we had a Buddha on the TV. You know, back in the 70s, everybody had that console TV that doesn't work no more, but it's just used for family pictures. You know, you had
Jesus, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X all on pictures. Blue-eyed, blonde-haired Jesus.
But see, in my house, because my father, he was done with Christianity after Vietnam and stuff. We just had a Buddha up there.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so when I closed, and I thought as a child, nobody explains to you who these people, you know, you just have these images. So how images shape your subconscious. So, but then I knew, okay, that's some kind of guy. I knew that, you know what I'm saying? But he looked like my, you know, the adopted kid, the older brother, you know, so I thought it was him in a funny robe.
Wow.
You know, I'm a little kid.
With the curls.
Yeah, well, you know, got the nappy hair, you know what I'm saying? And basically it's the one that's on the book cover, the one from Kamakura, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's this one, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the book cover of 21st Century Japan Decoded. But yeah, so that was my image of God in my subconscious. And when I came back and I see a lot of things that are happening with Black people, because even no matter what religion they end up choosing, a lot of when I watch them, I can see that, but you grew up in Christianity. They'll change the God to Allah, or they'll change it, but they'll still do Christian things.
Yeah.
They'll have that straight. And I'm not saying that's good or that's bad. You know what I'm saying? But that's one of these things that for some reason, not because I was clever, you know what I'm saying? But I just, you know, it's something that I didn't have to go through or I didn't experience just because of my upbringing.
Right on.
So Takuan, allow me to ask you, do you refer to your children as hafu? I mean, you don't have children, but
Yeah, I don't have biological children. Yeah.
Do you refer to the children that you teach?
No,
Oh, no.
do you let people refer to you as half?
No, good, and yeah, and
Yeah, because I think of it as double. I do. I teach my children that double, not half.
Double is a term that I coined in Japan on an NHK documentary. When
I don't know where it came from. I just thought of it.
Let me explain to you where it came from. When a brother came to Japan to do a documentary on mixed marriages, and he interviewed me, I had paper produced it for him, and it ended up on NHK, and he made reference to the word half. I said, no, that's an insult. Though we're half because that's a Japanese gairaigo, katakana expression of half, H-A-L-F.
Is that Robert Whitaker?
Sorry?
Was that Robert Whitaker?
No, and I deliberately did not mention his name because we feel in some kind of way about how he abused my resources.
Yeah.
But anyway, the story and me referencing that term first time he heard it, this was 30-something years ago. I said, I don't let people refer to my children as half. That's from a Japanese perspective, an island, Shimagumi, island nation looking at you half Japanese. That's their perspective. I said, no, he's double. Papa's American, his mama Japanese, speaks Japanese, he speaks English, he's bicultural, and got black relatives abroad, and or whatever other abroad, and Japanese here. So don't diminish him by suggesting he's half. That's an insult.
Yeah,
And,
well,
and it has caught on since that time. I've heard it coming back at me as people using the term double.
Well,
But I'm on videotape coining that. Sorry?
The Japanese looking at you and look at me sometimes and call me half, man. They'll call you half.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But if I hear it from them, they'll get corrected.
Yeah.
So, and that's a policy of mine, and unabashedly, I will correct that expression.
Well, that's a habit of.
But as a teacher in Japan, I teach Japanese a lot of things about cultural faux pas. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's my job in Japan. I've been doing that for years as a journalist, and somebody's got the means to manifest and disseminate that nonsense. We tweak it and correct it from a global perspective, right? Didn't mean to cut you off, brother, but I wanted to make that point.
Yeah, that double thing is something I put in my children at a very young age. Okay, so that they would realize that they are not half of anything. You can't be half for nothing. Okay. At the same time, in regards to the group concept, the Nation of Islam taught me group concept, Asiatic Black group concept, working together. You know, so coming here, athletic day, I was the first parent at the park, setting up shop. You know, they looking at me like, you know, they hung out the night before, got drunk, you know, and late. I'm there setting up. Okay, I'm halfway through by the time they get there. When they get there, you know, I'm on my way back to where I was going. You know, I'm out of here. I put in my work, konnichiwa, yeah, don't arigato gozaimasu, bye-bye. You know, I just letting them know that I put in my part, okay?
Right on.
And stepped it on off.
Right on. Thank you very much for that comment. Mike, thank you very much. I know you got business to attend to. You cornered the market on exotic animals in Japan. I don't want to interfere with that by holding you over. Solomon, thank you very much. In the midst of Ramadan, thank you very much. Ramadan Mubarak, my brother. Peace and you and your family. Talk, thank you, man. It's about you, baby. And before we go, I'd be remiss if I didn't post this picture. I'm screen sharing it. Can you see it okay from where you are?
Yeah, we got it.
So for my viewers, I'm speaking to my viewers, please go to Amazon.com and check out 21st Century Japan Decoded. The author is right here. You've been listening to him for the better part of an hour. Takuan Amaru, my brother, my young brother in Japan, who is pioneering in this respect, sharing Japanese concepts and African American experience in Japan. It's a beautiful thing that you do, brother, and we compliment you. And because of that, I invite you to be a recurring contributor to my shows as I try to share the story of Black in Japan. You know, I appreciate that because you've got a good perspective, man. And I can't believe it's been 20 years, man, since we've kicked it. I'm going to end it here, brothers, with y'all cooperation. Thank you all, one and all. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for watching. This is Japan Journal, the internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan, with your host, Mal Adams, here, bringing you another episode of Rap About It with Mal Adams here today. It's a part of the series on our Black history in Japan, and today's special guest has been Takuan Amaru. Don't miss this book. Get online now, 21st Century Japan Decoded, and we will holler at y'all again.